Well, I'm with Dr. Harriet Balding, who's with the Policy Institute of King's College London, and you're the author, along with all your other colleagues, of chapter 14 of the CMO's report, and I've had to write down the title. It's an unpretentious little title, which is Embracing Uncertainty, Futures Thinking in Action.
That's right.
What on earth were you thinking of? What were you trying to do with the chapter? What were the objectives?
Well, it is something quite different. So I think what we were doing is looking at the rest of the report, and the report in itself is again quite different. We're looking forward to 2040 here.
So that's quite interesting. So you saw the more or less completed report, a draft report, and then you came in underpinned it.
We didn't see a draft report, but we knew what the ideas were going to be, and I think the thinking is that we've got aspects of it that we're quite certain about, demography, epidemiology, and then they were sort of moving forward to say, okay, let's look at technology, and we were thinking, well, actually, what's missing here is how do we think about the future, because we're very uncertain about technology, so that got us thinking, how are we going to think about that moving forward?
Do you think we are uncertain about it? I mean, it's so much part of our normal life, isn't it, really? I mean, everybody's got a Facebook page, everybody does their holiday online, everybody orders stuff with Amazon, everybody's used to the whole idea of ticking the box for T's and C's and knowing their data's going to be used. I mean, do you think we're too cautious about that?
So I think we are very used to it in one sense. This is part of our everyday lives now, as you said. But it is something that's still very new, and we're only just starting to look at emerging research about the impacts of those technologies now. So I think it is worth a little bit of caution thinking about how that's going to affect us in the future.
You make a very interesting distinction between the dystopian and the utopian.
That's right.
In the future. So you've kind of hedged your bets, really, haven't you? I guess the future lies somewhere down the middle. For me, I would put it another way. It's scenario versus strategic. I mean, is there a strategy to arrive at a future, or are we just saying the future's going to come anyway, whatever it is?
I agree with this, that the future is largely unwritten. So yes, we can definitely influence, and we should be thinking about how we can do that. But rather than thinking with this particular future will happen and let's plan for that, I think our message is let's make sure that we're thinking in the right way in order to be prepared for things that we're not expecting. So I suppose it's about the planning rather than the plan.
Well, there's a lovely quote in your chapter, isn't it? I wrote it down. It says, Eisenhower said that plans are worthless, but planning is everything.
That's it.
And I rather think you've picked that up. You also talk about mental health, don't you, and technology. Let's talk about that for a bit, because mental health for a long time really has been the Cinderella of healthcare. We've tried with equity of parity of access and parity of treatments and all the rest of it. I'm not sure we're anywhere near there. Where does technology fit with this?
Well, I think this was one of the aspects in our chapter that we were saying that we can be, we're far less certain about at the moment. So I think in a utopian scenario, we've got a situation where technology can revolutionise the way we treat mental health. So we've got an example of a mental health chatbot, an app, a CBT app essentially, that can help with exam stress, which would be an excellent way of delivering it if it was robustly tested. On the other side, we are seeing evidence coming out that social media, for example, can have quite a negative impact on mental health. And I think the message there is that we don't know which is going to happen yet, so that's something that we need to think about.
I mean, you describe two futures, the dystopian and the utopian, and the truth probably lies somewhere down the middle. But when we look at the modern day impacts of technology and apps and all the rest of it on our kids and on mental health, which of your scenarios is it? I mean, is it that the state has a bigger role to play, or is it a matter for families and individuals? Is it education? I mean, I don't really get where it all fits together.
So I think the key is that it must all fit together. So it is not just for parents or for the government or for an app to sort out or for schools. It's something where we need to be seeing all of those institutions working more closely together. So our app example is, in my utopian future, we wouldn't just be dealing with it with an app. It would be something that is in conjunction with schools and parents as well.
It is interesting. I was in Iran a couple of years ago, and of course they blocked Facebook and they blocked, and it seems that the only I don't see in any future really how you can control the behaviour of some of these behemoth organisations that straddle the globe. Really, I don't understand how we can connect with that.
Well, I think there's already increasing pressure on those organisations to respond to very negative incidents that are happening, and the APPG report this morning came out and said that these organisations do need to take more responsibility for the way in which children interact with them in particular. But I think they will respond to that pressure. Also, I think there is sort of significant potential there for it to improve mental health as well, and that's the other side of this story that shouldn't get drowned out, is that they have potential to connect people a lot more.
There's a huge potential for good, isn't there?
Yes.
I'm wondering really if we're not in the same state as when Luther made his Bible and nailed it to the doors of churches.
Well, yeah, I think that's a really good example, actually, is that, when used in the right way, it can be a really powerful tool to connect people more.
I don't think we're not quite there yet, are we? Are we just too suspicious of it?
I think we're in the very early stages of this, actually, and we're only just starting to see research coming out about the impact of social media and other technologies. So in our chapter, we said that there is evidence that it has quite a poor impact on teenage girls' mental health in particular, but we also highlighted areas where social media and gaming have had a positive impact on people's health and can even be used as treatment.
I loved the chapter. I thought it was a really comprehensively interesting the way you've written it, and I love the way you dipped between the two, the dystopian and utopian. I thought it was very frank. There you are saying, well, look, we don't really know. Here's your worst way. Here's your best way. Yeah. Cheer us up. Give us what are the things that will come out of your chapter that you think really, well, not necessarily the best, but what's the best we can hope for?
Well, obviously, the best we could hope for is the wildcard magic bullet. For example, we find a solution to antimicrobial resistance. But the fact is that we know that that's not particularly likely to happen. There aren't many magic bullets out there. But what we can do is embed futures thinking into the NHS, and that gives us a better chance of having a more utopian
We
future.
should spend more time thinking, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a word I can't pronounce in your report. Is it phage or phages?
It's
right,
phage.
Now I've got to touch on that because as much as it might be on the utopian side of the line, it is really very important that phage can somehow or other eat bacteria. I don't know how it works, but if that's correct, and I know it's controversial, but if we can move it from the controversial to the application of the everyday, that solves a huge amount of problems, doesn't it?
Phage therapy is an example of something that could potentially be one of our utopian wildcards. So, if we manage to crack that, then the problem of AMR might look very different. But I think it's worth a huge word of caution, is that right now, we can't be fantastically confident about phage therapy at the moment. It's something that has to be very, very targeted, which means that we'd need to develop lots of different types in order for it to be effective against a particular bacteria. So I think that is a possibility, but what we need to do is enable people to think more broadly about what kind of solutions we could have.
Well, when I think it was Dame Sally wrote to the GPs and said,
right.
Do you know you're 3% above
Yes.
the norm? Well, the doctors suddenly thought, why? And comparison makes it.
Yeah, so that kind of campaign is very simple and can be very effective. So it was in conjunction with the Behavioural Insights team. I think he was a co-author on our chapter.
Yes.
So what she did was social norm feedback, just saying actually you're doing this much more than other people in your area, and it genuinely does have an impact on behaviour for people to understand actually not everybody else is doing this and it's having a negative impact.
Yeah. It's a really interesting chapter, and thank you for talking to me about it.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Harriet Balding, thank you.